Officially 5 o'clock. So I'm going to get started. Mental Health Board, who we are. The Sonoma County Mental Health Board is an advisory board empowered to listen to the concerns of our constituents and to help formulate policies that offer a consistent continuum of care for all those with mental health challenges. We are further empowered to advise the County Board of Supervisors on the mental health care system of care. We support reducing stigma for individuals needing all levels of mental health care in all communities and in the county. We support treating each person with compassion and respect, regardless of gender, sexual identity, and cultural or ethnic background, and acknowledging the influence of individual lived experiences. We support working with the local mental health system to eliminate racism from our minds and hearts, ensuring that our policies are equitable and benefit underrepresented communities. We support acknowledging that environmental factors can increase mental distress and support efforts to reduce such stressors. We support providing support to the families of those with mental health challenges. The Sonoma County Mental Health Board collaborates with the Behavioral Health Division of the Sonoma County Department of Health Services to increase public and professional awareness of individuals with mental health challenges. We strive to influence positively the mental health system by listening to public input and working with behavioral health services, excuse me, to create policies that will offer hope to individuals living with mental illness and to their families. So we have a full agenda tonight. Carol West, Erica, Chloe, and Wendy Wheelwright have been working hard on a presentation. And so we are going to move through the beginning of our meeting fairly quickly. So we have, let me see who we have here. Do we have a quorum? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, 5. We don't have a quorum yet, so we may have to come back to the approval of the minutes. Kate Roberge, did you have anything that you wanted to present? Is Kate here? Kate. Yes, she's over there in the
There it is. Okay, I didn't have a mute button there for a minute. Hi everybody. I think what I'd like to do, it looks like I only have 5 minutes on the agenda tonight to talk about peer issues. So I'd like to just push that over into the discussion that we're going to have tonight. It's just, it's 5 more minutes. So let's just do it that way today and we'll talk next time.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you for doing that. Okay, and it doesn't look like they are here, but we have a new, I believe, Piers coalition person, and I'm expecting that we will have Maddie Cottrell joining us as a peer, but she is not here at this point. So we are going to skip over that and go directly to the Behavioral Health Director's report. So Bill, did you have a report?
I don't see Bill yet.
Okay. I don't either. And going back to my other agenda, is there anybody who has public comments? I don't want to forget to do that. Okay. So I think that if we do get a quorum, we will come back to approval of the minutes. But at this point, I'm going to have, I want to make one announcement. I want to just make sure that we don't forget to say that the MHSA annual meeting is going to be November 4th. So nobody forget that. We may not have enough time at the end to really focus on that. And we do have 3 vacancies, 1 in District 2, 1 in District 4, and 1 in District 5. So with that being said, I would like to go ahead and have the special presentation begin. So I don't know if it's Carol or Wendy or Erica that's introducing that.
Oh, we didn't think about that part, but I will do a quick introduction to Wendy. Awesome human being, and you know her well. I will just hand it over to Wendy. Thank you. Wendy Wheelwright from the QIC, Quality Improvement Committee.
Okay.
I don't see Wendy on board yet.
Yeah, I don't see Wendy or our panelists.
Okay, so I'm going to go back for 1 minute. And I think that Tori would probably appreciate if I did a roll call, which I somehow skipped over. So Annabelle, I don't see Annabelle. Betsy? No. Bob Cobb?
Here.
Carol West?
Yes.
Kathy Smith, me. Marianne Swanson?
Present.
Michael Johnson? Don't see Michael. Patricia Gray? Don't see Patricia. Peter McElweeny?
Kathy, Betsy Chavez is here.
Hi, Betsy. Thank you. Peterson Pierre?
Here.
Bob Hales?
Here.
And Vanessa Nava. Okay. So that is, I think that is everybody, and we don't have Maddie here. either.
Are you pulling people from the panel forward as well, Kathy?
I think that Tori will be doing that.
Okay, does Tori have the list?
Is
Yes.
that the one Carol sent me? Yes, I have it.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I can
Okay.
start pulling them over now if you'd like.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and let you proceed then. I see that Wendy's here.
Okay, so I see Wendy is on. Wendy, we thank you for being with us. I'm going to hand it over to Wendy Wheelwright from the QIC. Thank you.
Just in time. Thank you for having me. A couple meetings ago, I had come here and given a presentation about the QIC and had been asked if the QIC would take on a part of this project and conduct listening sessions and forums in the peer community about the SB 803 peer support specialist certification process that the state is putting together. And so I'm here today to report back to the Mental Health Board that we did the task that was asked of us, and we have collected some information, and I would like to share that with you if you don't mind. So if it's okay, I will share my screen so that we can do that. Except that the host disabled that for me.
Hang on, give me just 2 seconds here. Hold on. Okay, you're a co-host.
All right, give me a thumbs up if you can see the screen. Okay, I think we're good to go. So what we did is we first met as a QIC, and Carol came and gave a presentation about the issue and the background and the specific ask of the QIC committee. They agreed to take on the project and formed a work group where we put together a little mini presentation to just explain some background on the peer certification process that's being proposed, and the peer centers, as well as NAMI and Family Service Coordination through Buckaloo, went out and conducted listening sessions to get feedback about this process. So I'm going to show you what we presented to them. It's very short. And the 5 questions that we asked and aggregation of the information that we received. So we first just talked a little bit about the background of how this developed through the Department of Healthcare Services, also known as DHCS, and the need to have peers recognized as a valuable part of our system of recovery and care. And so Senate Bill 803 authorizes the Department of Healthcare Services to seek federal approvals to add peer support specialists as a Medi-Cal provider type and add peer support services as a distinct service type. And so they've established initially what the roles and responsibilities would be for the state and for the county. So they would be establishing the statewide certification program standards. And we would be responsible for implementing the programs at the local level. Some additional information is that this certification is required for Medi-Cal reimbursement, but it does not impact peer programs under other funding sources. So it's not a sweeping requirement that all peers obtain a certification. DHCS has worked extensively with stakeholders to develop the state standards, and they have listening sessions ongoing that have been being sent out for people to participate in this process as it develops. Some of the minimal standards that they've set forth is that to certify at the state level, the person must be at least 18 years of age and possess a high school diploma or equivalent. They have to be self-identified as having experience with the process of recovery from mental illness or substance use disorders, either as a consumer of those services or as the parent, caregiver, or family member of a consumer of those services. And be willing to share their experience and demonstrate a strong dedication to recovery and agree in writing to adhere to a code of ethics, successfully complete the curriculum and training requirements, and pass a certification exam. So that's what it looks like kind of initially. So as a work group and as a QIC committee, we brainstormed some questions to consider, and this is what we ended up asking of our listening forums. And we first asked what might be some of the benefits of a state of California recognized peer support specialist certification that has a standardized curriculum and the potential for peer positions in Medi-Cal billable programs. And then we asked what concerns related to such a peer support specialist certification do you have? We asked, is there any areas of the proposed process that don't make sense or need more clarification? And what might be some barriers to obtaining such a peer support specialist certification? Any ideas for solutions? And what might be some concerns created by such a peer support specialist certification? Any ideas for solutions? So those were the 5 questions we ended up asking. And I'm just going to walk with you through one of the major themes that came out from our initial listening sessions on this. So on the first question about what might be some of the benefits, the number 1 is that you are introducing a whole group of very empathic providers into the system because they have walked the walk. And by doing so, you are potentially, whoops, it says screen sharing stopped. I didn't mean for that to happen. Having a little technical issue on our connection, it looks like. Let me try that again. Okay. All right, let me try that one more time and see if we can't restore the slideshow there. Give me a thumbs up if that's working again. Okay, not sure what caused that, but here we go. And so I was talking about empathy of those who have lived it, working with others who are also living it. And the stigma reduction that can result from that would be a benefit. Several people share that introducing peers into the wider provider mix could help shift some of the Medi-Cal culture towards a more recovery-oriented approach. And having a standardized curriculum might give one a shared language and values and make it easier to kind of communicate about the process, more cohesive workforce. There were people that were excited about potential job opportunities that could come from this. And the idea of it being transferable across the state, as opposed to, just within one county. Having peer providers is more cost effective. Peers are really great at helping with crisis prevention and getting in and intervening before things escalate up, which would reduce potentially hospitalizations. And then several people shared that they felt like having a wider variety of providers would increase system capacity and give people more options for access to services and the types of services that they could choose. So it increases choice in the system. And lastly, it could create an educational platform by which one can advocate on larger stages at political policy levels. So in answer to our second question about what might concern people, the main ones were these: that having a standardized certification test, well, standardized tests always contain bias. And so there's potential for it excluding certain groups. What fees would be involved in the test? Is that going to become a financial barrier to folks certifying? Would it reduce the diversity of peers that we have in the workforce? Would there be an added paperwork burden that would kind of dilute the peer model? There were some worries about would this, even though you don't need a peer certification for a non-Medi-Cal funded program, would it reduce some of those non-Medi-Cal funded program services in the system and reduce opportunities, therefore, for people who don't have Medi-Cal to receive services? Confidentiality was a major concern. The confidentiality in the peer model is such that you don't chart in order to maintain that. And so adding in a documentation requirement would run counter to that principle. Would this introduce liability to peer providers that's different than what they deal with now, and how would that be navigated? How would supervision work? If peers are working in the system, would their supervisors also be peer informed and understand the dynamics of that? People notice that there are 3 separate tracks, one for family, one for substance use disorder services, and one for mental health peers, but they didn't see a dual recovery peer track. And we're wondering about that as a possibility. Okay. So we also asked what people wanted more clarification on. So this is instructive for as we consider, how it would look implementing at a county level. These would be things we'd want to perhaps consider ourselves. So will the current peer support training programs be recognized under the new process was a top concern. Is there going to be grandfathering or grandmothering of current peer support specialists? What would be the process for that? Would one have to go through all 3 tracks, or would it be separate tracks that people would certify in? What's the recertification process look like? How often will it happen? Are there CEUs required, and what would that look like? How is the curriculum going to be chosen, and who's going to decide what it is? And then some logistical concerns about taking the tests and access to training materials. How will people get there if it's at a physical location? What if they don't have a computer? If it's online, things like that. Can we mitigate access barriers there? Will there be resistance or support from other credentialed providers? And will peers in non-Medi-Cal programs need this certification? Was a question that came up. The answer to that is no. And then what opportunities will family member peers have to work in the behavioral system? Have we considered that as a system? Our last 2 questions were about barriers and some solutions that were proposed by the groups. And so you can see here that a lot of the groups came up with solutions for the barriers they're identifying, which was great. And so, for instance, like with fees for certification, perhaps there could be fee waivers that are involved in that process, and that could be some feedback that we give. Language might be a barrier. So, making sure that we provide feedback in the stakeholder process about the test being offered in multiple languages, having a clear definition of recovery, because how would you quantify lived experience? What does that look like? And trying to come up with alternative access. So those were some things that were coming up there. And then in terms of just general concerns, paperwork burden came up in several different areas, but specifically, is it going to interfere with the time spent working directly with members? If I'm thinking paperwork on top of that. And so that was a concern that came up several times. And, experience, is there an experience hierarchy involved, and what would that look like? would there be sufficient access to peer services? Would it be restricted to certain groups? And so looking at strengths-based documentation might be a solution to some of these, making sure there's reasonable staffing ratios around having enough opportunity and access. And then alternatives, they're looking at alternatives to fee-for-service contracts and just alternative models in how we frame that and look at that might expand access to more people. So that is the quick summary of feedback that we received initially from our listening sessions.
Gosh, that is amazing. Thank you very much, Wendy. That was very informative. And I'm sure you're going to have a lot of requests for that presentation. So if that's something you feel sharing with us, we'd love to have that to be able to share with people. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Erica for our panel. Is that the next thing on the agenda, Kathy? Kathy, I think you're on mute.
Yes, it appears that Erica is on next.
Okay, and then I was just wondering, Tori, the mental health board members in the audience so that we can have our panelists on the screen, if that's possible.
Give it a
Thanks.
shot.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you, Erica. You have the floor.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me join tonight to help facilitate Carol. I appreciate all the behind the scenes work. Carol wanted to make sure we had a good representation from our community. I think that there might be a couple people missing. So Michael from West County Community Services should be in the panel, and I don't see him. And then I thought I saw Richard DeLeon, but I don't see him now. So I don't know.
Here's Michael.
If he is here. So I want to just make sure we get everybody that we should have. Okay. So I first want to start off with saying that we have several questions and a lot of humans. So I'm not sure how much everybody will be able to fully express what they need to say. So if there is something that you wanted to express that you were not able to express, we do welcome you to put that in the chat, or also to email Tori to be able to add that into the discussion. We definitely don't want anyone to leave with feeling like that they didn't get to say what they needed to say and express themselves. So we just have the limitation of time. So we will do our best tonight. And if you are a panelist, if you could please turn your camera on, I would like to see you if possible, if you are comfortable with that. And we will just do the first question is for everyone. And we would like to know your name, your agency, and how you identify. So many people identify in multiple ways. So you could be a individual just working at an agency. You could be an individual working at an agency that also identifies as a family member or someone with lived mental health experience, a peer, or you could be just an ally. So we want you to express how you identify when you introduce yourselves. And I'm going to put the prompt in the, oops. That's not what I want to put in the chat. I'm going to put the definition in the chat for everyone. So you have that and you can see it.
Do you want us to just ping pong around?
I'm going to go ahead and call on people.
Okay.
Yeah. So just give me a second. And thank you for asking. Get our list here. going to go ahead and ask Sean to step forward.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Sean Kelson, Program Manager, West County Community Services, who oversees Interlink Self-Help Center and the Petaluma Peer Recovery Center. I'm a peer, mental health peer, substance use recovery peer, family member, and a family member.
Great. Christy?
My name is Christy Davila. I'm the Director of Counseling and Behavioral Health with West County. I certainly have, I'm a family member. I have, trauma history, and yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. And Amy?
Yeah, hi. I also work for West County Community Services. I identify as a person with lived mental health experience and currently am the instructor for the peer support specialist training class here in Sonoma County.
Thank you, Amy. Susan? Susan, we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Susan Keller, Executive Director of the Community Network Journey Project. And I'm an ally and have been working with the peer community for a few years now, learning a lot.
Thank you, Susan. Lupe?
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Erica, for this question. I like the intro question. My name is Lupe Navarro. I'm the Executive Director of Latino Service Providers, and I consider myself a family member, a friend, an ally, and a strong advocate of a strong advocate and a strong dedication to reducing stigma, especially and particularly in the Latinx community regarding mental health. Thank you.
Thank you, Lupe. Adrian?
My name is Adrienne Lobby. I work with Homeless Action and with Saves. We work with homeless people on the streets, and we are attempting to set up tiny home villages for people. I'm a ally and a family member and a very strong supporter of the peer recovery movement.
Thank you. Bill?
Excuse me, Bill Carter, Behavioral Health Director. I'm a longtime professional advocate and ally in this area. I'm a family member. I'm a consumer of services, not these services, but of services. So,
Thank you, Bill. Michael M.
Hi, I'm Michael Martin. I'm the Program Manager with West County Community Services, specifically at the Empowerment Center. I'm an ally, an advocate, and I also have much lived experience.
Thank you, Michael. Sid?
I'm Sid McCauley. I'm the Acute and Forensic Section Manager at Sonoma County Behavioral Health. I'm a family member and a friend, and I strive to be an ally, and I always want to do a better job of that.
Thank you, Sid. Kate? Kate, we can't hear you. We want to. Definitely want
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm Kate Roberge, and I am the Program Manager at West County Community Services for the Peer Education and Outreach Program. I oversee the peer support specialist training that Amy teaches, and I am a person with lived experience.
Thank you, Kate. And we do have Richard DeLeon, who's trying to, I guess, reconnect. I don't know if he's in the waiting room or not, but Richard is from Hannah. So if he joins us, you guys will know who he is. So can I get a time check, like how much time I have, Kathy? or Wendy or somebody? Like, what's my? I don't think I got an actual time frame.
At least an hour.
Okay, thank you, Kathy.
Erica, do you mind if I interject and ask Michael Reynolds to introduce
Oh,
himself?
Michael Reynolds, I'm sorry. Thank you, Christy. The best for last.
Michael Reynolds, Peer Programs Coordinator, West County Community Services. I have lived experience with mental and behavioral health and substance abuse.
It's always good to have good friends that step up for you. You know, when you have food on your face or, thank you, Christy.
And I'm not sure if one of the callers is Mary Frances. She might have to join by phone. So I'm not sure how to help her get into the panel or not, if that's possible.
I don't know if you can if someone's calling you by phone.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't have that option.
Okay. All right. Well, hi, Mary Frances. We love you.
Thank you, Carol. So the first question is, what are the advantages of integrating peers? This includes family members across the continuum of care. And so I'm going to pick a few of you because, like I said, we don't have the whole time. So I'm going to just pick 4 of you to answer this first question. And I would like to start with Christy.
I mean, I could speak a little bit to this, but I think that the magic of peer support is that people who have lived and walked through life experiencing the challenges and hardships are then in a recovery place that then they want to give back. And I think that's one of the ultimate parts of our human experience is to get to, you know, where we can contribute and give. And for others who are in some of the darkest parts of their life, they have somebody that can hear them and want to listen to them and be a part of helping in their recovery process. I think that's the magic of the peer work.
Thank you, Christy. Amy? We can't hear you, Amy.
I'm gonna say thank you to Christy's sharing first. I really appreciate your definition. I agree. I think that peers can provide a unique type of connection to one another that is welcoming and recognizable in a different way than one might experience with a clinician. I think that one of the things that peers have brought to this community and across the country is also a sense of community. It's not just the one-on-one connection, but being a part of a community that's can take one out of isolation and go beyond just the recovery from mental health, but feel like one is becoming part of the larger community as one learns and grows.
Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome.
Did you have more to say? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
No, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amy. And but Susan Keller.
Yeah, I wrote this up because I gave a lot of thought to it, given my few years of work steeped in the peer community. So to me, they provide firsthand insight into the issues, language, challenges, and opportunities for working with people living with mental health challenges. They bring wisdom gained through lived experience that many dedicated to improving care across the continuum do not have. They have a unique level of trust and confidence, extremely important to working with peers. And they help bridge gaps that otherwise would be stumbling blocks. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Michael Reynolds?
Yeah, I think that those are a great overview of the qualitative benefits and advantages. I also, think about some of the quantitative. So it is a more cost-effective approach for mental health, for additional mental health services versus a crisis nurse in the ER, a licensed counselor, social worker. Those are much higher wage positions. And obviously we don't do the same work, but support work where it's cost prohibitive to hire additional licensed clinicians or professional licensed nurses and things. And then also being able to assist in carrying out the plans for those providers. So, a social worker working with someone, a nurse, a counselor, that they're going to meet with maybe once a week. And then the peer can come alongside and be able to provide that additional support and help to carry out that plan.
Thank you, Michael. Lupe?
Sorry, Erica, can you repeat the question?
Sure, of course. What are the advantages of integrating peers, including family members, across our continuum of care?
Thank you. And welcome, Richard. And I'm trying to, considering that I represent a Latino-based organization, and for us, it has been an opportunity to create exposure and opportunities for our youth as a way to inform and educate the community. At least for us, that's how it's been beneficial, especially because we have a large target population. We primarily work with an age range of 16 to 25. And so I think that is what has been, for us, instrumental and supportive.
Thank you, Lupe. Richard, do you want to answer?
Well, I sort of missed a couple of things here and there. Sorry, y'all. I had having some internet problems, but my understanding is that you're talking about the peer support system, and so the main reason why Carol reached out to me is we at Hannah developed a program this summer where it was called Sonoma Valley for Healing Justice, and these students, high school students, were all participating in an 8-week program where they were learning. Yes, one, they were also getting stipends to participate, so there was a bit of a carrot on the stick to have them there. And on top of that, the idea and the concept was that then they can take a lot of this learning and share it out into the community. And within their own little nucleus that they were creating, it was amazing to see how they felt supported by each other and were vulnerable. Actually, one of our presenters came up with the term called vulnerageous. And so these students were vulnerageous consistently in being able to express how they felt about their community and how they felt about the things they're facing, and how within this group they were feeling that support that they needed, and especially after all the pandemic and being by themselves.
Thank you, Richard. And I've been time checking you guys, and you guys are giving very succinct answers, so we're pretty good. So I'm going to let a few more people answer because I think we are good on time. So what about Sean?
Yeah, I think most of these things I was resonate with what I was going to say. Save time, better outcomes. It's nice to have somebody who's been in the pool, not just read about swimming sometimes. I think it also just really valuing peer experience could be helpful for peers that we potentially for peers that we have on it working all through our system of care that might want to be more open about sharing their peerness and how it can inform their work. I think really valuing this is really important. And given that there are these opportunities that somebody in a peer position is able to utilize their peerness in these really rich ways that we're talking about, I think the potential for that is really positive. And I have some concerns about that potentially being stymied, you know. But I think that's, yeah. That's about all I have to say for that one right now.
Thank you, Sean. Sid?
I guess I think about the quality and depth of the connectedness from peers to the folks that we serve, as well as the opportunity for role modeling and advocacy within the organization. And the role modeling I'm thinking of is that peers don't get distracted by the behavior and see the human, and can really role model that for staff, for non-peer staff.
Thank you, Sid. Michael M.
Hello. I think a lot of the peer support is community building. I think really, I mean, outside of my position, I am happy to see within my own center to watch the relationships develop really organically. And because there is this empathy and sort of the co-learning that comes along with being able to share. And I think.
Uh-oh, you froze. Michael is frozen. Okay, I think we'll move forward. And Michael, are you back?
Yep, sorry, you lost me. I'm out here in Gurneyville.
Yeah, you froze there.
Oh, okay, where did I stop at? Ah, got you paying attention. I also, what I was saying is really talking about the community and starting as almost a home base for tendrils of peer support to go out into the community, you know, because I think we could really use a lot of that right now. And definitely with the lived experiences, that connectivity that people experience. And, you know, especially now with a lot of things going on, I think it's essential for debilitating isolationists. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. When I get put on the spot, my brain doesn't work. That was fun. That was a fun time for Erica. Let's see, Adrian.
I am very humbled by being here. So many of you have worked so long and so immediately with this issue, and I'm honored to be here. The one thing that I've thought about that no one has said yet, I think, is that moment when someone says, well, I just got told to do this and this and this and this. I was supposed to make all these phone calls to get this help. And you look at them and you go, yeah, that's really hard. And you know, you might not get help at the end of all of those phone calls. And so understanding the bureaucracy, the system, and having that sort of very basic support of it takes time, it's okay, one step at a time. And also, I think the role modeling of there is a moment when you can get through it. And look, I've gotten a house, or I've gotten this kind of support in my life now because I went through all of this, is really helpful. And thank you.
Thank you. And Kate?
I remembered this time. Yeah, a couple of things. You know, one of my favorite sayings is the map is not the territory. And the best educated clinician anywhere has a great map. And it can be they could have studied it forever. It's a great, great map. But until they've walked the territory, they're never going to know fully what that's like, what that place is like. And so I think that's one of the things is, as peers, we walked the territory. And so when we meet somebody else, they can, we can model that. We can model our experiences and in the sense that, one peer can say, wow, they covered that territory and look at them, they're okay now, and that kind of hope that one peer specialist can give to another, I think goes out throughout the community, so it's not just, yeah, I don't know how to do it and I don't know where to find out how to do it. And it's like, no, that guy over there did it. I think that's really helpful. I think also one of the things a peer specialist can do in the workforce is to be also model for a model for staff, or at least showing staff what the differences are. So I think those are the two, I hate to use the word ambassadors because that puts a kind of weight on the person, but sometimes the peer specialist who goes out into that workplace really is going to be their connection and their understanding to peer support, to recovery, to all those parts. So anyway, I think those are some good things.
Thank you, Kate. And Elizabeth put in the chat, and I'm going to just go ahead and read Elizabeth's comment and encourage anyone else that would like to share from the audience to join in with the panelists. So Elizabeth said, natural support systems are the most effective at restoring people to a sense of place and belonging, central to recovery and healing. Peer support systems are the best way to support people moving through the mental health recovery with lived experience and an understanding of how to bridge the distance between where you are and where you want to be. Peer support providers should be legitimized and professionalized through supported certification without barriers. At CPI, we have a parent mentor program for families going through child welfare cases, and we have great success with our mentors supporting families in reunification because they have been there and understood better than anyone. Unfortunately, in our society, the way to acknowledge values is to credential and monetize the position. So let's do that. Lived experiences, earned experience. It's time to respect that. I am going to move forward with our other questions. Let's see, the second question is, what additional roles do you see peers fulfilling in Sonoma County? And let's start with Michael Reynolds.
I think a couple of the areas where we started to make some inroads with Eric Bohm, our peer outreach worker with the MST team, is working at the CSU, working with folks, being able to go in there and provide some support, help them kind of think through as they're going, connecting them to more resources. The wellness center is right there. And then at the detention center, especially folks that are there for extended period of time, to be able to, while they're they have their attention and have additional support, mental health services around them, to be able to really connect with them. And he's had some great success with folks being able to start thinking about planning and then meeting at the discharge and being able to sort of bridge that gap from planning for resources to connecting them as they're leaving the detention center.
Thank you, Michael. Lupe?
For me, I'm thinking, one thing that we launched this year and that I would like to see and just being implemented more is the opportunity to connect, peers into opportunities and spaces to learn and grow as professionals. We have a track under our youth promotor model that we've titled Professional Promotores. And these are, in a sense, advocates, community health workers, students, again, between the ages of 16 to 25, who we've trained on how to guide conversations on mental health, for example. And once they've completed their track as a youth promotor, they are then placed on their third year, because it's a 3-year track. On their third year, we have youth working now for Verity that have been placed at Verity. And so, most of our youth that are coming to us to specifically focus on mental health, we've noticed have self-disclosed that a high percentage of our youth are facing, either with family or friends or personally, challenges with mental health. And so there's this genuine interest to be a part of this movement, and more importantly, be a part of the workforce. And I think that's integral for Sonoma County, right? We want to engage our youth in important matters, but we also want to engage them and educate them about the resources and services accessible to all. So that's my take. Thank you.
Thank you, Lupe. Sean?
Hi, yeah, and I'm not being distracted. I have 2 computers going and I'm taking notes on one over here. And yeah, because I think like in emergency rooms, we talked about this before, having peer providers in emergency rooms could be really helpful, and in certain waiting rooms and other places, and helping with navigation in specific spaces and out in the community. And similar to what Lupe was saying about, I think, providing education and career lattices and supporting that, because we're dealing with people in survival mode, and we've been had a system in survival mode that hasn't always made the best decisions. Because I know people 20 years ago who got a job because they were bilingual, and then they're stuck in that job forever and weren't supported and nurtured to go more. Thankfully, LSP and like Mi Futuro and the stuff they're doing with the youth has just been amazing. And really doing this with the peers, I think, is a really good, really important to stretch this out. And this also combats stigma. So I meant to mention that earlier, just reducing the stigma. And it's not like you're mentally ill or you're not, but I think throughout the system of care and in the community, and I can't think of other specifics right now.
Thank you,
I'm
Sean.
gonna plug in my laptop. The battery's gonna die.
Thank you, Sean. Amy?
Yeah, well, first I want to say I concur with Sean that the need and potential value to have peers in emergency room services could be of great benefit. In New York State, there's been a program, they're now called People USA. They used to be just called People Projects to Empower and Organize the Psychiatrically Labeled. And they were one of the first peer groups to establish peers supporting other individuals who go to the emergency room for mental health crisis. And if you've ever sat in an emergency room like at Memorial Hospital and just been there for 8 hours in distress, overcrowding, it would be really great to be able to talk to somebody about what's going to happen here, what the process might be like, might even, be able to relieve some of the stress on those staff who staff the emergency admissions process. And additionally, there's kind of a movement for emergency rooms to be hiring peers who have lived experience with substance use and connecting with people, after recovering from an overdose, and maybe planting the seed of recovery as having some kind of a hopeful face in that environment could be of great value. And I also want to say that I think that in youth services, I really love hearing more about what the Latino service providers and the promontories are doing. Also, at places like the Dream Center, I think there is some youth peer support happening through places like Voices, but I think it could be really wonderful to expand that. There's been a lot of great success with like teaching QPR in the high schools, at the junior college, and perhaps more peer support for youth could be of value as well. I think the last thing I just wanted to say, and maybe Kate and a few others could speak to this more, is something that Piers worked on here for quite a while was trying to create a peer respite as an alternative to hospitalization. And that's peer respites have been shown to be one of the most cost-effective, successful types of programming that eliminate the need for the chronic cycle of hospitalization and then being back, and trying to break that cycle of learned helplessness. So I know that we're going to talk about what some of the barriers are. I'm sure that there are some, but I just would like to bring that up, that I think Sonoma County, if we can ever address the possibility of having a peer respite as an alternative to longer term hospitalization, I think that would be of great value. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. And Kate? We can't hear you, Kate.
There we go. I'm sorry. Yeah, I second Amy's thoughts on how very important a peer-run respite would be. And I worked on that committee, and Sean had worked on that committee, and we were working on it for what, 3 or 4 years, maybe a little bit longer. And we saw it from writing the grant all the way through to almost buying the house, and then it all collapsed. And it was pretty much of a heartbreaker. But also, as for some other roles, I'm looking here at the question, what additional roles do you see peers fulfilling? And I really think the sky's the limit. I don't really have a set idea of what people should do. I think with our creativity and our willingness, all sorts of stuff could happen. And our imagination, that's the limit, is our willingness and our, finances, obviously, and our imagination. And, we could be creating career lattices or ladders. And that's going to be really important because, if peers are hired as peer specialists and there's nowhere ever for them to go, within the county system, that's not only demoralizing, it's not real fair. And we could do, a career ladder. We could train people with classes, going to trainings, cross training, collaborating with staff mentors or other agencies. There's just all sorts of things we could do to expand peer roles all over the place, and we're seeing little, sort of tendrils of it, but I'm hoping those tendrils can really, grow, and that we will sort of find the commitment, the intention and the commitment to really make it happen. So I think it could.
Thank you, Kate. I just want you all to notice that Susan put a important perspective in the chat. And I'm hoping that maybe one of the next panelists could speak towards that in regards to, you know, if we're adding additional roles and we're adding them into the hierarchy of our system and what that actually does to those roles. And you know, if we're defining what roles would be great for our community, I think that that's a important perspective that she brought into the room. So I just encourage those of you that get called on next to maybe incorporate how you feel about that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and have Michael M. step forward, please.
Okay, hopefully I'll make it through this answer without breaking up. Something that I would see is an expansion of education into other industries, primarily first responders, which have a very close circle of peers to begin with. I think going out and introducing the concept of peer support and recovery model and creating these groups, you know, that you know, and when you talk about an expansion of our job or, you know, where we can go or mobility, something in the education role that we can take this message on the road and, you know, introduce that to facilitate and create these peer groups that we could possibly just step away from, or at least just the concept to release the stigma in a lot of these first responder groups that there's a lot of barriers to that for them. So in my mind, I would like to see that. But speaking to what Susan was talking about, I think that that's a wonderful idea because it sets goals. And if you're mired somewhere and you know that that's where you're at and everything will be a lateral move and you don't have the hope. And, you know, as professionals, you know, we all need some hope. So I agree with that. And I think it should be supported. However, we could figure out how to do that, whether it be monetarily or just support through empathy. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And Bill?
So in a system that, as Sonoma's behavioral health system, that functions so much from a state of scarcity, which is just don't have a lot of money to do things, we have to, the strategy to endorse is to, you know, have a plan for where you want to go, but be ready to take advantage of opportunities that present themselves. So you're sometimes doing things that may not be the first thing you choose, but it's the thing that presents itself. So we have a series of these kind of projects developing in Sonoma County now. So Michael referenced earlier a position we had in the crisis stabilization unit. That was a community support aid or a client support aid that was extra help. So we taken advantage of that experience and the structural opportunities in the CSU to make a proposal to turn that into 2 full-time community support specialist positions. So we'll look forward to,
Nice.
it's not a done deal, but look forward to that happening later this year. We, with Measure O, made the case successfully to the Board of Supervisors that we need a housing supervisor to manage the growing body of living units that are set aside for individuals who have mental illness, and we need somebody to manage that. And so we've set that aside as a peer position because we think there are advantages to having that perspective and that skill set in that position, and it's going to strengthen our division to, you know, have a middle management kind of position there. We're also looking to expand our internship opportunities for peer support specialists in preparation for the ability to finance these positions with Medi-Cal revenue at some point coming up over the next couple of years. And we are also looking at contracts. So we've, when the board offered the opportunity to the departments to put forward projects for consideration under the ARPA proposal, so the American Recovery Program Plan Act. We partnered with West County Community Services to promote the transition housing program that they've developed, and to talk with them about supporting a more robust internship program. So we were directed not to submit that as a department request, so we'll sponsor, throw our support behind West County as they submit a community application for that. The peer respite program referenced earlier was a significant disappointment not to be able to move that forward, but we've taken the work that that committee has done and we've used it to craft a program for jail diversion support. So we will be purchasing a property early this year to support transitional housing for jail diversion clients, and that program will be operated as a peer support program. And then we have other strategies that we're looking forward to that are developing. So we look forward to opting into the peer support specialist system when it's developed. We hope to enter into the organized delivery system for ODS for substance use, and when that happens, it'll create more opportunities for peer support specialists in the SUD realm. So those are examples of kind of the practical strategies that we lean on to bring peer support specialists and peers as integral parts of our behavioral health division.
Thank you, Bill. I'm so glad that list was so long. That definitely makes my heart happy. Hi, Mary Frances.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
The one thing I would add is that, the NAMI model is, we call ourselves peer-led programs, and really the power of, well, I'll talk about family members, for example, teaching our classes and leading our support groups is phenomenal, because in so many cases, people who are supporting somebody who's living with a serious mental health condition have no idea that there is something out there for them, and they need badly to connect with other people with whom they can have their voices heard and gain hope by learning from one another. And then the other thing I will say is that I do know that, for example, in the county of Santa Clara, that there is a peer mentor program that is quite big, and peers are paired with someone who is being discharged from a psychiatric hospitalization, for example. And they meet on a regular basis, and that peer is actually paid for the time they spend with the person that's been discharged. And it can be enormously helpful just to have a helping hand along the way. Anyway, those are, and I think this has been a profound discussion, so thank you, everybody. That's it.
Thank you, Mary Frances. Adrian?
Well, I work with people on the street, so I'm with Kate really to say that we need enough peers to help everyone. And there's 2,000 people who don't have a place to sleep tonight. There's a huge overlap with mental health. People who come into homelessness because they're have a mental health problem, and then many people who are become mentally unstable because of the trauma of homelessness. So I see the need is just enormous. The question, of course, is how to pay for it. So it's really nice to have Bill giving us a lot of insight about some of that. But our organization is trying to set up tiny home villages like Los Gilicos. And there's a perfect place for a lot of peers to work and get people to the next step into more permanent housing and just more stabilized. And I wanted to address what Susan said about egalitarianism versus hierarchies. And I think it's really important, however we train people, we have to have a component about how to work together as peers, whether it's peers with lived experience type peers or peers within the system. You may be my boss, but most of the time we can interact as peers. But we aren't taught this in school. So we really, really need to teach this to people everywhere. But since we're talking about this particular program, I highly encourage it. It's not easy to teach. It's not easy to learn, but it is so much better when you do it.
Thank you, Adrian. Richard?
Yeah, a thought that I had come up a couple of times here is when we talk about like peers. Yes, there's that peer support that students are getting, but I think of even this program that that on the margins is spearheading with Dale, and it's not specifically a mental health group, but it's that concept of bringing students together and empowering them, and they were very purposeful in creating mentorship within that program. So there's, you know, a variety of us in different work in the workforce who are supporting these students and are consistently going to be in contact with them. And one of the main reasons why I know that Danny, Professora Dominguez really wanted to do that was that we heard that from our students this summer as well. Youth don't have that many people that they can reach out to. We heard loud and clear that they don't necessarily feel like their teachers are the ones that they can talk to. Maybe that's just because they're only with them for, you know, 1 hour or 2 hours, depending on what their schedules are set up per day or every other day. But there's this sense of not having that trustworthiness with other adults. And when we talk about early intervention, yeah, I mean, high school is kind of a later age, but that connection with a stable adult is critical in that resiliency process. And so wherever we can set up systems where youth can get that support, I think that's very critical too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Richard. So I know there was a few of you that I didn't get to ask what additional roles do you see peers fulfilling? So if you have additional comments, please drop them into the chat. And the next question is similar, but slightly different. But some of you sort of answered that in your question. So in the last question, it's what additional ideas do you have around integration of peers across the continuum of care? And so I think that what I would like to throw in a little twist to this question, which is if you didn't have to worry about funding and you got to just magically have enough money to do whatever you wanted, what would integration of peers look like across our system of care? And I think I'll start with Bill because he had a big list of things that he's realistically thinking of, but I'm curious where else we could have some magic come in if we got to rule the funding world.
You know, the public mental health systems are strongest when they lean on their tradition of being multidisciplinary, right? So when you have doctors or nurses and clinicians working together, you bring the best of the resources we have available, healthcare providers. And so the ability to integrate peer support specialists, family partners in all of our teams would be, I think, the first way to do that, and most comprehensive way of doing that, and to do that across mental health and substance use disorder services. I think the other thing I would think about we were thinking about in some of the examples I gave, is also having peers vertically in our system, right? So certainly the experience and perspective, the skills of the peers are extremely valuable in direct services. But, you know, a lot of our system is driven by administration and management, right? And having that voice there, where it's not often not present, and helping us think about the decisions we make at a management and administrative level with the perspective of somebody who has lived experience or has a family member with lived experience can have a profound impact on how we operate. And so I know that some of the people that have influenced me most have been peers who have worked at the state level advocacy and worked in county administration and management. So I think that we would want to have peers horizontally across all of our teams and all of our services, and then vertically in the management and administration that supports those services.
Thank you, Bill. And Christy?
I'm sorry, I was distracted by my dog. Um, but I think if I'm tracking,
Do you want me to repeat it? The
yeah,
question?
thank you.
Yeah, sure. What additional ideas do you have around integration of peers across the continuum of care? And I threw in a twist, which is if you woke up tomorrow and you had all the money in the world to design what you wanted, what
Well,
would that look like? What would integration of peers look like in Christie's world?
yeah. Well, I think that peer means it's the similarity, the connection of lived experience, whether you're a senior or you're a youth. I remember being a peer buddy when I was in school, and I think back to the beginning, that this is part of our human experience, that we want to support other people, that we've lived through something and we've learned something, hopefully, and we want to give back. We want to give. And I think whatever that lived experience is, I think to Susan Standon's point about value and legitimizing this role is, I think we're hopefully we're on the track of doing that. I think MFTs, substance abuse counselors, they were on this track at one point where they were working, and then the state started recognizing and wanted to give a path for certification into being legitimized by what they have to offer and what they have to contribute. And I think we're on that path with Piers. And so, I mean, I think it's limitless as far as where peers can work, what lived experience they have and what they have to offer and what they have to contribute and share and give back to their community and help others that are on that path or starting the path. I think it's limitless where it is.
Thank you, Christy. And I'm gonna pull a fast one on y'all and call Wendy, because I'd like to hear what her miracle unlimited funding response would be. She's been on this journey with us for a long time.
Since Bill took the really great answer of everywhere, I'll take the one next to that, which is I'd love to see peers integrated in the connection points between our teams. I'd love to see navigators, because we have this really complex system that is benefited by having multiple perspectives and multiple types of services and providers, but it can be a little overwhelming and tricky to navigate between all those things. And I think there's a real strength in the peer community having done that, to kind of lead out on helping others do that. The other place I'd really love to see it integrated is in the transitions in and out and up and down. Because we sometimes talk about achieving stability as though it's the desired end state, when I think perhaps the most predictable, reliable state would be change. And so I would love to see like an aftercare group, or you know what I mean, that's not just okay and we've reached our goals and thanks for playing, but have more of a continuum into community, or continuation of community is rather what I'm thinking. That I think the peer voice would be instrumental in creating. And then to Susan's point, I think that as as various groups break ground into trying to open closed systems and be included and offer perspective, I would want to see that we weren't making the mistake of saying, okay, yes, we do need that perspective. Welcome into our system. Join our team in our way, as opposed to saying, can we blend the two and not change what you are, but learn from what you are and vice versa, and see if perhaps the gestalt or the total of us is better than the sum of the parts, as opposed to saying, can you bend into my mold to fit into this system of care? So I think that in the in-between places of connection is where a lot of strength and power could lie.
Thank you, Wendy. And Sid, I see you nodding your head and you didn't get to answer the last question. I saw you put your answer in the chat, so thank you for that. Would you like to answer this question?
You know, I was thinking about the same things that that Wendy was with, and I also had noticed that Kathy put in the chat when people are moving into independent living, that would be a really important place to have a navigator. So I've been thinking a lot about the connection points and moving through levels of services. And what just popped into my head was, well, what if everyone was assigned a peer navigator to keep for life, for their life in the system anyway, instead of having it be sort of adjunctive, have it be central. There was something else I was thinking of too, but I can't remember what it is right now.
Well, then they keep the relationship, you know, and so the
That's
thing
right,
that the
that's right.
system often silos is the relationship. And any of us that have worked in the peer world, mental health world, we all know that the relationship is key. So the connection that someone has with individuals where they feel seen and heard is the important piece. So that navigation piece ends up being throughout their experience, and there's not an unexpected or unrealistic thing about recovery because it's cyclical and there's change, like Wendy said. So I completely hear you, and yes.
Exactly. And then the other thing I was thinking of was just more about the integration part, not about the, you know, if we had our magical money, but about the cultural, the intentionality the system would have to put into a cultural shift. And yes, bringing peers in would shift the culture, but there has to be upfront a lot of work so that they don't both feel like they're carrying the burden of that, and also so they aren't coming into an environment that just quite frankly isn't pleasant for them.
Thank you, Sid. Susan, I know that you are in an area that's specialized. So do you have any suggestions around integration? Oh, we can't hear you. We want to.
I agree with everything that's been said and very hopeful and inspired by all of that. Really nice to hear Bill's list. When I first started working in the behavioral health peer community, there were peers in all the different divisions in behavioral health, and they were working with us, and all of a sudden they were all gone with the budget crisis. And that was a huge blow because the cutbacks weren't shared across professional staffing, but rather the peer support specialists were the ones that got axed. So I'm glad to hear this progress. As far as my vantage point with the work I've been doing with the peers about advanced care planning, the entire continuum of care, I think, the healthcare continuum, could really benefit from having peers engaged. And in order to do that, I think that it requires education, you know, to get out there and educate the healthcare system, the employers and workers about SB 803 and the benefits of hiring peer support specialists and how they could enhance their work to better serve people who are living with mental health or said stuff. And so I think that a big part of the work is to actually become really good advocates and get out there and educate across the care continuum about the opportunities at hand. So as the peer support specialists can get certified and become employed by and reimbursed through Medicaid, that the healthcare system beyond behavioral health will understand the opportunity and take advantage of it. So it's almost like we have to break ground and pave the way for new ways of looking at this beyond what has all been discussed already. And just a case in point, the hospitals are badly in need of advanced care planning for people living with mental health challenges. And the peers have been working for a few years now, creating the tools to get the job done and creating the training to train peers to help peers to do this work. And studies have shown through Duke University that peers want to do advanced care planning. They want to have their care wishes known before a crisis, but they can't imagine doing it unless they have help. And the effective way to do it is have peers helping peers. So we're working on that model, and the hospitals, I think, are prime targets for employment of peers too. Thanks.
Thank you, Susan. So Richard put in the chat, how do we incentivize more Spanish language mental health professionals? And I think that could dovetail into this miracle question of, how do we integrate peers across the continuum? What's your ideas? And I would like to call upon Lupe, because she is a leader in our Latinx community that may have a vision about that.
Thank you, Erica. And I think it was, the pictures just shifted in my screen. So who was it? It was Sid who mentioned it, first, if we can start with structural change, because I am very overprotective of our youth, and placing our youth into systems that are sometimes not meant for them to be in these positions. But I think if I had money, I would want for it to be invested in this structural change, creating spaces and opportunities for all, which is part of our LSP mission, but also providing opportunities for our youth. So again, we're centered on providing our youth learning opportunities to connect and engage with the community and to join the workforce, be a part of the development and growth of our workforce here in Sonoma County. And one thing that I'd love to see that we're already seeing, again, we take youth promotores, we take youth from our community between the ages of 16 to 25. We intern them as youth promotor. It's a paid internship with quarterly stipends. The key requirement of all of our promotores is that they have to be bilingual. At first, it was that you had to be bilingual bicultural, but the interest has grown in our community. And so now our requirement is that you are bilingual of both Spanish and English, considering that we're also in a county that is privileged to have 2 dual immersion schools in our county, one in Windsor and one in Santa Rosa, that teaches all students how to speak English and Spanish. And so now our requirement is that you're bilingual, right? And so our youth are trained on, we have 4 tracks, one on mental health, environmental issues, considering, again, we are in Sonoma County experiencing fires that is impacting our mental health as well. We have, which we call promotores verdes. We have a track on emergency preparedness, and we have a track on housing issues. And so currently I have 46 students that are being trained on these 4 tracks to then educate the community. After they complete year 1, they move on to year 2, and that's the leadership development year, which they learn how to do project management, program evaluation, and research study. They do an annual community needs assessments. And then our 3rd year is then our promotores or professional promotores. So I would love to see and have the opportunity to move my 46 students into the second tier with a paid opportunity. Unfortunately, because I don't have the funding for it, it's a limited opportunity. So I go from 46 to then 8, selecting just 8 promotores, and then 10 professional promotores. So I would love to have the opportunity to make this an opportunity for more than 46 students in Sonoma County. Make this an opportunity where I can move these 46 students into these 3 tiers, because once they get into the third year, they're then placed into different agencies. So our partner agencies for this year, as I mentioned, Verity is one. The Santa Rosa Community Health Center is another one. Sonoma County Regional Parks is another partner. And our final partner is the City of Santa Rosa. So then our professional promotores, our youth, are then placed into these agencies to become, in a sense, ambassadors, navigators in these agencies. But more importantly, also learning more about this organization, because not only is there stigma around mental health, there's also stigma of these positions, as Sid was saying, right? There's this system that needs to create internal changes. And so it's our hope that in providing these students these spaces and opportunities to learn about these organizations, they're less intimidated, to then Richard's point, right? To help diversify our workforce and have bilingual Spanish-English speakers in these different professions, departments, organizations that are here to serve our community. So thank you, Erica, for inviting me to answer that question. I know Kate has her hand raised.
Thank you, Lupe. So I don't really have any more time, but I want to make sure that Kate gets a chance to say, she's had her hand up for a while, and Kate's been a long time peer in our community. So I want to give her a couple minutes, and then everybody else, sorry that we didn't get to hear from all of you. I could do this all night. If you could please put whatever additional information you want us to have into the chat, and then I will pass it back to the Mental Health Board. Kate?
Yeah, thanks. I just don't want us to forget our history in this county. There's only about probably 5 people that I see in this group who were even around for a lot of that history. And in 2012, and I'm not going to go into a big thing, there was the Consumer Relations Program was founded, and the actual goal was to change the culture of behavioral health, like the 2 of us, you know, and we were so naive, we thought we could walk in and change a culture. But we were there to be rabble rousers. I mean, we were told, get into good trouble and be gadflies, don't let us slip. And so there was this wonderful kind of energy that was there, like, let's make changes. And the 2 things I learned about that is you kind of have to have a herd enthusiasm. You know, if you don't have enough people enthused, it's never going to move. And actually the demise came from budget and fires. It was budget, fire, budget, fire, budget, fire. And by the time we were done, you know, we had no more steam left. And I don't think many people in the county had much steam left. And, you know, but we had educated staff. I had done education things, spoke to psychiatrists, I spoke to new people coming into work at the county. We did all sorts of education and outreach and advocacy work. And, you know, it's pretty much, you know, in our memories now. And I just don't want to forget that there's know-how about how to go about this, you know, and also ways to make mistakes. So I don't want to forget what we've already done, and that this is not new to this county. Thanks.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you very much for bringing in our history. I appreciate that. I think I might have been one of those people. Okay, so I'm going to pass it. I don't know if I'm passing it to Kathy or Carol, but I think I will pass it back to one of you.
Well, I first want to say thank you so much to everybody who came to the panel. I am just blown away by the richness of what Kate has very eloquently said. Peers are not new to Sonoma County. Advocacy is not new to Sonoma County. And just a reminder, I think I did send out through email that we did get a gold proclamation from the Board of Supervisors last year for the Global Peer Support Celebration Day, which is on Thursday, October 21st. So read it, enjoy it, share it, and we will be looking for more opportunities to continue this conversation. So if your agency would like to host a deeper conversation about these issues, I'd love to do that. We will try and create opportunities for deeper discussion. So if you're interested, if you could put your email in the chat or email Tori or the Board Supervisor Administrator. And we'd love to keep you in the loop, and we'd very much like to keep this conversation going. But thank you very much to Erica and Wendy for making this special presentation possible. And to all of you, thank you for all the advocacy that you do in our community. You are appreciated. Hand it back to Kathy.
Okay, and I want to thank you all for being part of the panel. I want to thank you for all of the work that you are doing. Absolutely wonderful. And I see that Lupe has already disappeared, but Tori, could you bring her back, please? Lupe Navarro, if she's around still.
There she is.
Lupe, I see you.
Yes, I'm still here.
Yes. I don't have the certificate made up, but I want to tell everybody that this month, the Mental Health Board is appreciating the Latino service providers for everything you do to support the Latino community, the Latino youth. Your promotories program gives youth the opportunity to be leaders and truly affect their community in a positive way. And I absolutely loved that several of you, starting with, I think, Michael Martin, said, identified what the Piers are doing as inserting tendrils of hope and community awareness. And I really think that that is what you are doing. I will be writing up the certificate of appreciation, and it's not written yet. So if anybody else wants to, say something to or about Lupe in honor of her program, I would be happy to accept that at this point. So
thank you, Kathy.
Yes, very excited to be acknowledging your work, especially during Hispanic Heritage Month. So thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, Kathy. If I can just say a few words,
Sure.
I'm definitely touched. This has been the most challenging. The program has been enacted. We're celebrating our 5th year with our youth promoter model. It was a grant provided to us from the California Department of Public Health for just 5 years. And next year will be the final year. We're very fortunate that the state has seen the value that the program has given to this community and wants to continue supporting our efforts. And so I'm beyond honored to know that the work is being recognized. The work of our youth is being recognized, more importantly. But it's been the most difficult program to implement during fires and during a pandemic. But my team has been resilient. I mean, we're talking about resilience, and and how it's represented in Sonoma County. I can say that my team and our youth have been a testament to it. There is a community needs assessment that was done this last year led by our youth promoter leaders. And that has been just an eye-opening opportunity for us all. And so thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Like I said, just right now, it's humbling because we do it because there's a need and we care and we want to see our youth continue to thrive. And I think this is the best way. It's give them the mic, right? And they'll take the lead or pass on the baton and let them lead. And so thank you. I'll make sure to share this with all.
I am sure that you are making a difference. So thank you. Okay.
Can I say something? This is Betsy.
Betsy, yes.
Betsy. Yeah. Just to add on, I think for Lupe and her organization, you know, it's always so nice to see your presence in all these platforms, knowing that you stretch yourself so thin and that you do so much with the little that you have. And so it's so great that we get to honor the work, that we get to acknowledge the youth, we get to acknowledge the boots on the ground efforts that are made every day. And so I hope that we can continue this as a board to elevate these organizations that are doing the amazing work alongside all of our other organizations that are here with us tonight. And what I really loved about tonight is the collaboration that has happened among them all in terms of this very special topic. I do think we need to continue doing this, and I love that we held this conversation, and I do hope that we continue and that this isn't, I know that this isn't going to be the end of this, and I'm so happy to see everyone who was participating in this panel today and to acknowledge Latino service providers, knowing that we are celebrating Hispanic Month, I believe, and Mental Health Awareness Month.
Hispanic Heritage, yeah.
Hispanic Heritage, yeah, and so knowing that you encompass both of those, it's so great. So thank you for your hard work.
And a comment in the chat from Richard De Leon, LSP is a clear example of collective healing at its best. Great work, Lupe. So good job.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so we have just a few minutes left, and Bill, I don't know if you had something to report or not, but I'm going to give you some time to do that.
Okay, I will tell you about what's happening in the Behavioral Health Division. I've started announcing it to folks, but I'll be retiring at the end of this calendar year. And so there will be another change in the leadership in the department here. The scuttlebutt is the Department of Health Services Director has been selected and will be announced soon. And that he will begin, he will take his position in the month of December. So I anticipate that recruitment for my replacement will begin soon after that. And there will be more information for everyone about machinations of that. We have preliminary notice that the county's application to the Crisis Care Mobile Unit grant has been accepted. So this was a grant in which we partnered with Santa Rosa, Petaluma, Roanoke Park, and Cotati to apply for state infrastructure funds to support their growing and new mobile support teams. So it's $2.4 million. $1 million will go to Petaluma, $1 million to Roanoke Park and Cotati, almost $500,000 to Santa Rosa to support their in-response team. The cities and the county will be partnering to create a outcome and evaluation collaborative so that the the 4 mobile support teams that will exist in the county will share, common data set, common data platforms, metrics, and reporting and analysis. So this will allow the county to develop lessons learned in mobile crisis, including lessons learned across 4 different programs in a way that'll both help us improve the quality of our programs as they evolve, but also should support our efforts to expand more advanced crisis support programs across the county. So that's going to be an exciting development. Folks have asked about the PUF, the Psychiatric Health Facility, is on track to open in January. We're in the contracting process with Crestwood, and the timeline for that is, it's never set, it's never done until it's done, but it's pretty solid now as you see the permits that are in place and the construction that's made its way forward. I feel pretty confident about a January opening. I mentioned in my previous comments that a project we have been attempting to develop that had been struggling is getting a boost. So the jail diversion transitional housing project, we are looking to 2 funding sources to support that project. One, we have a grant from CHAFA, the California Health Facilities Financing Authority, to purchase a property. And then we are going to apply to the Mental Health Services Act Oversight and Accountability Commission to support our application to have a peer support program operate this housing. So we have identified a property that we believe we will be able to purchase with the CHAFA money. That's been a big obstacle. But we're pretty confident in this property purchase, and we are advocating with the Oversight and Accountability Commission to accept our application. So we have reason to think this project has gotten some new life breathed into it. So we should be looking forward to that in the first half of the new calendar year. And I think those are the primary updates, new happenings for the Behavioral Health Division. Bob?
Yeah, Bill, would you remind us where the PUF actually will be residing?
So that's going to be the old Valley of the Moon Children's Home. So it's out at the Los Gillicas property in that area. So the Crestwood has entered into a lease for that property, and county is supporting the renovation of it.
Listen, how am I not seeing myself?
Okay. So thank you, Bill. We are definitely going to miss you. I am sure that everybody will understand that we've already decided that next month we know exactly who we're going to honor. So if you have things that you're going to want to say to or about Bill that are nice, plan on next month. We're going to definitely honor Bill, give him a little bit of time there.
Bill is not going anywhere. You're not allowed to leave, Bill. We've all fallen in love with you over the years.
Yes, this is true. You're going to be very difficult to replace because your heart shows through, and that's a special thing. Okay, and I think that there are still 7 of us here. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, everybody moved. Are there still 7? I think so. So did you have the opportunity to read the minutes from last month?
Yes.
Somebody. move to approve them?
So moved.
Kathy, do we not need a majority of those? And which would be what? How many are on the
7.
board currently?
There are a possibility of 15 and we're missing 3. So that means that we have 12. So we need 7.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that's what we've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 of us. Exactly enough. So Bob Hale moved that we approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
I'll say.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so those are approved. I think that I've covered just about everything. I want to again remind people that the Mental Health Services Act annual report and review is moved to November 4th. So we will be having a meeting on November 4th from 5 to 7. So I'll be sending out, or Tori will be sending out reminders to all of the mental health board to be there. And oh boy, did I have something else, that one more last thing that I was going to remind people. Oh, be sure that mental health board members, be sure you're doing your ethics training if you need to do that. Anybody have anything else? Carol.
Just a reminder that next board meeting not next board meeting, that's the 4th, November 4th, but the 16th meeting, the regular meeting, will be South County Services. So if you are a South County service provider, you are invited to tell us about what you've been doing.
Yes, and I want to thank Carol for all of the work she did in putting together the panel today. And she is the South County representative, so she's still working hard. Erica, your hand is up.
My hand is up. Thanks.
Yes.
So I just wanted to let everyone know that Path to Hope Live, our suicide prevention event, went really well. It was a lot of work for all of us that did it. It was a team of many different community agencies, and we all worked really hard to bring it together. And the event had 5 different events, and I posted the link in the chat, and it really focused on youth. And so we had a lot of youth panels, and we had a lot of youth sharing their experiences and their stories. We invited a language justice translator. And so it was translated, instead of being verbatim, it was translated in Spanish in common language so that people could understand what people were saying. Verbatim that doesn't translate very well when we're talking about relationship and mental health. And so I think that it went very well and was well received with the community. In 5 events, we had 1,500 people show up, which is pretty huge for a mental health event.
That is amazing.
And so I just want to acknowledge all of we did this as a team, and I really want to acknowledge all of our community partners that made that happen. One of my big dreams was to do a big public health event like that and have an event in Spanish. So we did the last event in Spanish, and that it was translated into English. So people got to experience what it was like to have something translated not in their first language. And I think that that's an important thing that hopefully we will continue to do in our community, because just like with peers, if you get to have that experience, you get to understand why language is so important and why it's so important that we integrate language and culture into our community, not just with the Latinx community, obviously, but with our entire community.
So if we follow that link, then we can see the 5 sessions they were recorded.
Yeah, we're still a little behind. So each event will be the first 4. They're done in English and then it's translated in Spanish. And then the last event is in Spanish and translated in English. And we haven't gotten all of them up on the website yet, but we are working on it. Yes. So yes, eventually, yes, you will get to see them all there.
Pretty exciting. And
Yes.
excellent that you got such a big audience.
Well, it was because of our community. Yes, our community shared it. They all put in a lot of hard work. They designed their events. It was really beautiful to watch the partnership and teamwork.
Awesome. Congratulations. Okay, any other things that I need to acknowledge? Okay, so do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Bob Hale. A second? Peterson. Okay, thank you and have a good night. We'll see you on the 4th.